Hey, good morning everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss Pre-Market Report for March 15th, 2016. I'm Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss, with analysis for the upcoming session. Here's a look at the ES in a daily time frame. What we talked about the previous session was 2000 was going to be very, very important. Price held above that level throughout the session, forming a small doji after an expansion day here. Typically speaking, in an uptrending market here, week over week with the higher value pivots here, you could see a pullback as deep as that 1985 or perhaps even lower, as we've seen here before, and that could spark a buying opportunity for another continuation higher. So that's the early ideas. Even if we see weakness, expect bulls to come in at some point and attempt to squeeze for another shot higher. The pattern will continue until the pattern stops working. As of right now, typically speaking, whenever you do push through 2001 and 2000 and hold below that zone, the expectation may be for a continuation lower through running the stops below the previous session's doji. If that's the case, the next session, Wednesday, we could see price come into that level and offer a selling opportunity for a continuation downward. So that's going to be the bull case and the bear case. Bulls are looking to see how far this thing pulls back for a shot at defending and squeezing, with a shot at seeing a continuation in 2061, the next HV and above. But failure to hold above 2001s and being rejected on a retest could offer more weakness back toward 1941 and perhaps the next HV and below, which is 1912 half. So we have a couple of scenarios here to watch out for. If we take a look at the ES in the intraday time frame, the key range we were talking about before, 1958 to 2001, 1979 half is the midpoint. I talked about late yesterday that this range right here forming above the top of this key range, if they fail to see acceptance above that zone, everyone that got long here is going to start to get their stops run. And that type of phenomenon there usually leads to a push against the range, back to the midpoint at 79 half, and back to the 1958 bottom of the range. So here's the deal. Early on, what I'm going to be watching for is how price responds to the early sell-off. Pullbacks in the morning have been buying opportunities by the end of the day. And so we have to watch for that here. We obviously have the FOMC coming up the next day, so we could just be kind of pushing back and forth within the range. But if price pushes back above 01s, watch for a retest at value here at 2006.75. That area, it coiled around it, took it bid, and then was unable to defend it, and price went offered through it. So that implies that the next retest of this area could also be offered, and that bounce into that zone could be a selling opportunity for much more weakness ahead. All right, let's take a look at crude oil. Here's crude in a daily time frame. This one continues to slide lower and is now sitting right above the major CLVN here at 36s. We've seen several days here where prices failed to push back below that level, with bulls defending. At a time, it was resistance. So that's clearly a rejection zone, is 36s. It's not 37s. 37s had been the zone. Instead, price went through it and filled it in, creating a clear CLVN right here at 36. So that's the level. So right now, bulls are looking to defend 36s for a shot at squeezing higher into 39.46 and 40 half. Failure to hold above 36s opens up a path back to 33.44. So now the levels are starting to come out a little better here. If we bring up this key level, we can now make it 36 instead of 35.25. Just kind of change it up a little bit. There we go. So that's our new key level to watch. If we take a look at the crude oil chart on the intraday, here we are. I'm going to mark that as the CLVN now, 37 to 36. There we go. And what we were talking about before was how price went offered here through the previous week's close usually implies a move into the previous low. And that's what we got to move down into within 2 ticks of that low. The expectation would likely be for a test of that zone. Here's 36s, very important key level. What's going to be important here is that if price pushes below 36s, how does it respond? Does it see acceptance, in which case further weakness will be seen into 35.10 and below? Or do we see price fail to see acceptance and then we push back above it? Because if that's the case, look for a bounce back toward 37.80, 5-day VPOC. Any retest of that area could be defended for another round of weakness ahead. All right, let's take a look at gold. Here's gold in a daily time frame. We talked about before this major rejection again above 1272s implied that we would be looking for a selling pressure off of the pivot range into 62s up to 63.90 and looking for a retest of 1333 and 1227.70, and we completed the move in overnight trading. So we got most of the move in one day, completed the move here into 1227.70, and that's exactly what we were looking for. We could see further weakness into 1191.50, but now that's kind of the home run play. Basically, if we see a bounce that starts to stall and start to see a lower high, that could be the time where you play it down to the bottom here. You could keep some on the table here, but at the same time, when you reach two of your major targets and you come back toward a major key level here that's been bid, you got to be able to take the majority off that trade. Add back and defend on pullbacks for a shot at the continuation. We are inside the trigger zone of the uptrending PIMAs now on a longer time frame. Between the 21 and 34 pivot-based EMA. This is a zone here where bulls want to defend for a shot at higher levels, and so this is going to be an important area to watch. Any failure to hold above 1227, which is the midpoint of this key range, opens up a push into 91.5. So we have a couple key levels here to watch out for, but early on, keep an eye on the previous week's low, because that's going to give us an idea if we're going to squeeze and push up towards 63.90 or if we're going to fail and start heading down toward 1191.5. Here's the daily time frame of the NQ right now, trading very quietly. 43.55 is the key LVM we've been watching. Price attempted to push through that level for the first time in months yesterday and is now back below that level. We obviously have an uptrending value here with the pivot-based with pivot range. And basically a pullback into 4,300, I believe, still an area to defend for bulls for a shot at further strength through 44.12 and likely into the 50% target, which is 45.23s. You can also see the primary bull target for the week is 45.02, so it gives you an idea that we could reach the zone, although this target may come down a little bit more as we see further pullback. So watch for a pullback in the 4,300 that could offer an opportunity to buy and squeeze to this target as it moves down. Failure to hold above 4,300 opens up a path to the previous week's low at 42.20 and a retest of that primary bear target at 41.98. All right, let's take a look at the intraday now. On the intraday basis, what we see here is that price held above 43.55, which was our key level, and failed to hold above that zone. So new highs, new highs, new highs, but it really wasn't getting any clear traction, and instead the stops came out at 43.55. We dropped back to value. So we know which levels are in play. This is going to be an important level. If price comes into the zone, bears want to defend for a shot at lower lows. And bulls right now are trying to keep 5-day VPOC bid at 43.22.5 for a shot at seeing a rotation back to new highs. Taking this level offered would be important because you can see it's been bid now on several rotations. So it took a bid here and defended, and defended on a third pass. That means there's an increased inventory of sell stops below. Bears defending the previous week's low right now want to take those stops out and run this thing back to 43.09. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this thing plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck and trade well.